born when she kissed me. I died when she left me. I lived a few weeks while she loved me. You like it?
Humphrey Bogart is one of the greatest cinematic stars of all time. Any fan of his is likely familiar with classics like Casablanca, The African Queen, and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. However, throughout Bogart's long, industrious career, there are many noteworthy performances from movies you may not have seen or heard of. Here are 5 of my favorite underrated Humphrey Bogart films and performances. At number 5 from 1936 is The Petrified Forest, directed by Archie Mayo and starring Bette Davis and Leslie Howard. The film follows Gabrielle, a waitress with big dreams of moving to France and becoming an artist, and Alan, a broke British writer who wanders into Gabrielle's family diner. The pair begin to hit it off, and then suddenly their hopes are dashed away when they are taken hostage by Duke Manty, a notorious gangster on the run. The character of Duke Manty was inspired by the real-life John Dillinger, so Bogart studied footage of him and based his performance on the man. Not only is this an excellent film all around, but it was this movie that helped catapult Humphrey Bogart to stardom. Warner Brothers initially wanted Edward G. Robinson in the role of Duke Manty, but it was Leslie Howard who refused to do the movie without Bogart, having acted beside him in the original staged version in 1935. Humphrey delivers a magnetic performance and emanates a quiet, brooding rage that makes him the standout star in the film. However, the endearing performances and excellent dialogue between Leslie Howard and Bette Davis acts as the backbone to the film and only helps make Bogart's violent takeover even more menacing. Later in his life, Bogart would go on to name his daughter Leslie Howard Bogart in honor of his co-star, who he credited for igniting his career and for his brave service in World War II, where he was sadly shot down and killed by enemy aircraft in 1943. Next, we jump from the film that made Bogart a star and move to his final on-screen performance. From 1956 is The Harder They Fall, directed by Mark Robson and starring Rod Steiger, Jan Sterling, and Mike Lane. The plot follows sports writer Eddie Willis, who, facing financial ruin after the collapse of his newspaper, is hired as a PR man by boxing promoter Nick Benko. Nick has just recruited a massive Argentinian fighter named Toro and hopes to use his size to draw large audiences. However, unbeknownst to Toro and his manager Louise, all of his fights are fixed. As I said, this was Bogart's final film before his death, and it is a magnificent one. His character retains a tough, cool attitude and carries the sense that he's seen it all in his profession. His best scenes are when he's in a fiery debate with Rod Steiger, who gives an absolutely ruthless performance.
Don't fight it, Eddie. What are you trying to do? Hold on to your self-respect? Did your self-respect help you hold your job? Did your self-respect give you a new column? Eddie, if you help me, I'll help you.
And his scenes with Toro, where he helps push the scheme forward while wrestling with his own conscience.
Do as you're told for a little while longer and you'll go home a rich man. The first South American heavyweight champion of the world. They'll hold parades for you. You'll be famous. They'll treat you like a king.
Ultimately, Eddie must decide what is more important to him, the money or his humanity. Jan Sterling shines as Beth Willis, Eddie's wife, and the boxing scenes are expertly directed by Mark Robson, who also directed the great boxing film Champion in 1949. Overall, The Harder They Fall is a solid sports drama filled with a powerful cast of characters that any fan of Bogart should see. At number 3 is Edward Dmytryk's 1954 World War II drama, The Caine Mutiny. While Bogart may not have the most screen time in this film, he steals every scene he is in as the eccentric Lieutenant Commander Queeg, a hardened Navy officer who has a very particular way of running a ship.
There are 4 ways of doing things on board my ship. The right way, the wrong way, the Navy way, and my way. If they do things my way, we'll get along.
The film follows the events of the Caine, a U.S. Navy destroyer minesweeper, and the men who rebel against the ship's new strict captain. The movie features an outstanding cast that includes Jose Ferrer, Van Johnson, Fred McMurray, and Robert Francis. The cinematography is rich and colorful, Dmytryk's direction is tight and economical, and if you're a fan of courtroom dramas, you will love the tense finale of the film, which features one of Humphrey Bogart's greatest monologues.
I was to blame for Lieutenant Merrick's incompetence and poor seamanship. Lieutenant Merrick was the perfect officer, but not Captain Queeg.
While the film is slightly bogged down by a romantic subplot, I think Bogart's performance is strong enough to carry the whole film. I love the themes of generational tension with the older captain and the younger officers, and the focus on the difficulty of making tough decisions during wartime. The movie does a fantastic job of making us see both sides of the argument. We can understand the reasoning behind the mutinous men's decisions, while also sympathizing with the hard-nosed Captain Queeg, who was grossly mistreated by his own men. The Caine Mutiny was the second highest-grossing film of 1954, while Bogart's portrayal of Captain Queeg continues to inspire actors and stories today. Next from 1955 is William Wyler's The Desperate Hours, starring Fredric March, Arthur Kennedy, and Martha Scott. Like The Petrified Forest, Bogart plays Glenn Griffin, an escaped convict who leads an intense hostage situation. Bogart even stated he viewed the story as, quote, Duke Manty grown up. However, instead of an isolated diner in the middle of nowhere, this cruel group of criminals decide to invade a random suburban home.
Where's the liquor?
I think this is a great film because of its stark realism, which is especially enhanced by every performance in the film. Fredric March plays the patriarch of the family, and the battle of wills that ensues between him and Bogart acts as the driving force of the film. From the terrified mother and daughter, the indignant little boy, to the deranged convicts, everyone delivers a fantastic performance. Bogart is mean as ever as Glenn Griffin. The character is possibly the darkest role Bogart ever played, with savage dialogue delivered with such believability it makes you wince.
You scream and the kid will come home and find you in a pool of blood. You know who's going to get it first? Not you. Them.
Exactly what I tell you now. This man is not going to hurt you, son.
Just make a move, kid. You'll find out.
William Wyler is one of my favorite directors, and his smooth direction coupled with the beautiful cinematography really helped to increase the suspense and tension throughout the film. In fact, this was the first black and white film in VistaVision, Paramount's widescreen process that allows for higher resolution. Overall, The Desperate Hours is a riveting thriller that will surely keep you on the edge of your seat. At number 1 is the 1950 film noir In a Lonely Place, directed by Nicholas Ray and starring Gloria Graham and Frank Lovejoy. Some of you may not deem this film underrated, and while many modern critics now suggest this is Bogart's best performance, I still feel the film is not mentioned as much as, say, Casablanca or The African Queen. And it's also one of my favorite movies ever, so why not give it a shout out? Bogart plays Dixon Steele, a washed-up and quick-tempered Hollywood screenwriter who finds himself the suspect of a murder investigation. Later, Dixon begins a relationship with his neighbor Laurel, and as her love for him grows, so does her suspicion. What really makes this film shine is the incredible screenplay penned by Andrew Solt. In fact, Bogart loved the screenplay so much that he wanted to make the film without any revisions. Of course, as with most movies, many revisions were made, but the dialogue Andrew Solt and Nicholas Ray produced is some of the finest in all film noir. Nicholas Ray is a world-class director, and with this film, he captures one of the most devastating love stories ever put to film. The rich cinematography by Burnett Guffey only amplifies the suspense and drama throughout the film. Bogart was absolutely born to play the role of Dixon Steele, but his marvelous performance would not be the same without Gloria Graham's stunning portrayal of Laurel Gray. Beaming with charm, wit, and style, Graham acts as the true emotional center of this story. We watch her fall in love with a potentially dangerous man, and when we see the sheer terror in her eyes during the gripping finale of the film, it's hard not to share her fear and anguish. Any fan of Humphrey Bogart, film noir, or tragic, beautiful love stories must go and see In a Lonely Place, as it is a perfect example of brilliant acting, writing, and directing. Humphrey Bogart's legacy will live on forever through his incredible body of work. I hope this video inspires you to watch even more Bogart films, as there are plenty more amazing performances and movies than just these 5 discussed here. Thank you so much for watching, and if this is the first video of mine you're seeing,
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.